Reading from Sri Bhakti-Rasamrita Sindhu, Eastern Division, chapter number 2, Karika number 1. So we read house number 1. First, Sa Bhakti Tridha. First one. We were 1 to 1. So he makes 3 divisions of Uttama Bhakti, Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti and Prema Bhakti. And then we studied Sri Jiva Goswami's comment where he said that really speaking there are only 2, Sadhana and Sadhya. So Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur takes exception to that. And he says that it is not so. So he says, सा भक्ति रीति अथात्र साधन साध्यत्व रूप द्विविध भेद वस्तु भावस्यपि साध्य भक्ति अंतर्भाव वस्तु किम भेद त्रय करणेन इति चेत न. So he says that if someone says that why make 3 divisions, why not just make 2, sadhana and sadhya, and put bhava bhakti also as part of sadhya, means the perfected stage. So he says no, that's not right. So he does not agree. And he gives the reason. He says, Yata agre vakshamanasya utpanna ratya samyag nirvighnam anupagataha Krishna sakshat krito yogya sadhaka parikirtita. So he says, Rupa Goswami himself says that those who have attained rati, which is another name for bhava, so they are still not free from obstacles. So this is one major difference, that when one attains prema bhakti, then there are no more obstacles to bhakti. There are no offenses, which is the primary obstacle. But at the level of bhava, it is still possible. And that's why he says that it is important to keep bhava outside the sadhya. So he says that person who is at the bhava platform is capable of seeing Krishna sakshat krito yogya, but he is still called a sadhaka. So this is Sri Rupa Goswami himself saying. So if he intended bhava to be part of sadhya, then such a devotee will be called siddha. Sadhaka means that one who has not become siddha yet. So here he says sadhaka parikirtita. Iti sadhak bhaktak lakshanasya madhye rati apar pariyasya bhavasya avirbhavepi samyag nirvighnyam anupagataha iti visheshanena prabaltarasya kaschin mahad aparadasya kaschin bhago avsishto asti iti labhyate. So he says that basically he gives 2 reasons, that one who has attained bhava bhakti, he is still called a sadhaka and not a siddha. So sadhaka means who is still not on the platform of perfection. And the word nirvighnyam anupagata means that there is a still possibility of having some obstacle, that if he performs mahad aparad, means offends some great Vaishnava, then he can lose it. So such a thing is not possible at the level of prema bhakti. So therefore he says it is important to make this distinction between bhava and prema. You cannot put both of them in the same category. एवं सति क्लेशजनकस्य अपराधस्य लेशे अपि साध्य भक्तेर आविर्भावो न संभवति. So he says, therefore we should understand that when one attains the sadhya bhakti, which is prema, then there is no possibility of any klesha, which is in the form of offense, aparadha. Because at that level person acts only out of love, Prema itself is the guiding energy. So in that state, where is the question of committing offense? Because prema and offense, they are not in the same boat. They are antagonistic to each other. One who has prema cannot be offensive, and one who is offensive cannot have prema. Simple. So, because offense is possible at the level of bhava, although it doesn't happen, but at least the possibility is there. Because in the bhava level, one is still living in this physical body, and physical body has its own limitations, purva samskaras. So there is a possibility, although it is not necessary that it happens, or usually it does not happen. So for that reason, the distinction must be made between the two. That is his argument against keeping only two categories. Ateva tatraiva uktasya sadhya bhakti vishishta siddha bhakti lakshanasya madhye avigyata akhila klesha sada krishna ashrita kriya siddhasyur. So he says that in the same place, in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu itself, Rupa Goswami himself says that a siddha is defined as one who is avigyata akhila klesha, who does not experience any klesha, any suffering. And why is that? Sada Krishna ashrita kriya, because all his activities are meant only for Krishna, for Krishna's pleasure. So where is the possibility of aparadha? So therefore, such a person is called siddha or perfected. So siddha means accomplished, and sadhaka means who is in the process of reaching the ultimate destination. Tasmad bhavasya sadhya bhakter antar bhavo na sambhavati. Therefore, bhava cannot be subsumed within sadhya bhakti. So this is his statement. Tathaiva sadhana bhakter antar bhavastu sutram eva nasti. And certainly bhav bhakti cannot be part of sadhana bhakti, because that Rupa Goswami himself says that sadhana leads to bhava. Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sa sadhana vida. In the next karika itself he will say that sadhana bhakti is that which leads to bhava bhakti. So certainly bhava bhakti cannot be part of sadhana bhakti, and it cannot be part of prema bhakti. So murarestu tritiya pantha. In Purva Mimamsa there are two famous schools. So one is called Guru Mat, other is called Bhatt Mat. And then came another Murari Mishra. He started his own school. So there is a famous saying that Murari has the third path. So Bhava Bhakti is third. It's neither this way nor that way. So that is the conclusion. Because usually you will always see sadhana and sadhya. On any path you have sadhana, whether it is karma, jnana, yoga, there is a sadhana and then there is a sadhya. But here there is something in between hanging, which is neither part of sadhana nor part of sadhya, but on the boundary. So that is Bhava Bhakti. So therefore he refutes Jiva Goswami's idea of putting Bhava into Sadhya. So Bhavasya Bhava Sadhanatva Bhavat. Why Bhava cannot be called as Sadhana Bhakti? Because then Bhava will be attained by Bhava. So he said that's illogical. Tasmat sadhu uktam bhakte trividhatvam iti vivechanam. He says, therefore it is rightly said that bhakti has three divisions: sadhana, bhava and prema. So this is his deliberation on what was said earlier. So is it clear now? Any question on this? Otherwise we move to the second karika.
So why does Jiva Goswami makes it combined?
He wants to simplify.
But what are his arguments?
Okay. Raise your hand up and look that side.
Catch it.
Yes. Oh. Why did Jiva Goswami, though Rupa Goswami already said so three divisions, why he combined into the two? What were his arguments?
Because really speaking, once you attain bhava, there is no more sadhana. So sadhana comes to end at bhava.
But he's still called a sadhaka, right? When he's practicing bhava.
Yeah, so he wants to say that sadhana leads to sadhya, which is a general understanding. What is the purpose of sadhana? To attain sadhya. Right?
Yeah.
Everybody knows this. So he says if sadhana comes to an end, then where it ends, sadhya must start.
But it doesn't end in bhava, right? It's still
No, sadhana bhakti no. Once you are at bhava level, then there is no sadhana.
So bhava bhakti, there is no sadhana, but you still consider sadhaka.
Yes. That's why I said that it is a grey area. It is something in between. So he makes these two divisions because, as I said, the general understanding is that there are only two divisions, sadhana and sadhya. So if you make two divisions, then bhav cannot be part of sadhana. It can only go to the sadhya side. And also once you come to the level of bhava, then you are not doing sadhana anymore. Because then it becomes your bhava. Bhava means your nature. Sadhana means that it's not your nature yet and you are doing it consciously. It's not happening just like we do things out of our nature. So you don't have to practice that. If you feel hungry, you go and eat. You don't have to practice that when I'm hungry, then I must eat. Right? There is no sadhana performed for that. So for that reason, it makes. You can give it to him.
When it is said that when one achieves the level of bhava, then the progress to prema bhakti is very quick.
Yes.
So do I understand correctly that the level of prema can be achieved in that particular human body?
Yes.
And just curious, later on, Rupa Goswami speaks about the symptoms of prema bhakti, of this anubhavas, vicharya.
Yeah, that does not happen. Just attaining prema is one thing, and then there are further manifestations of prema. That is different story. That's why Jiva Goswami says that why you are saying only 3, you should say 8. Remember? Because those are really not prema. Then you have pranaya, man, sneha, raga, all those things. They also have their different names. So now he is clubbing all that within prema.
So these anubhavas and the vicharya, they are experienced at further levels of prema?
Those are further, he will say it later on in Prem Bhakti Lahari. In the end. So he says, Premana eva vilasatvad vairalyat sadhakeshu api atra snehadeva bheda vivichya nahi sanshita. So he says that these stages of sneha, pranaya, etc., they are very rare. There is a possibility, but this doesn't happen in the sadhak deha. So therefore he doesn't consider at this level.
Yesterday you were saying how Rupa Goswami, and today is giving three different divisions, sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prema bhakti. But yesterday you were saying that Jiva Goswami gave two. I heard it was Jiva Goswami and sadhana bhakti and bhava and prema bhakti in the same category.
Right.
The sadhana and sadhya. What's his reasoning of giving two categories? What's the reason for that?
Okay, now he will explain that because that was his question just now and I just now answered it.
Oh,
So now you give this to him.
exactly what I'm asking?
Yes, exactly what you asked, he asked. So throw it back. He's your friend from Detroit. You are the Detroities. Okay. Throw it. No, you can throw it to him.
That's the money. Yeah.
Okay, you can answer him.
Briefly to say, because at our stage, you don't perform the sadhana as so-called sadhana which you already practice, but you perform sadhana as your natural tendency, and therefore it is combined with the prema in the sense, and it's not independent sadhana. So Rupa Goswami, Jiva Goswami has combined the two and call it only a true sadhana and prema bhakti.
You see, the general understanding is the sadhana means a cause. In simple language, sadhana means a cause and sadhya means effect. So effect has a cause, right? So cause has an effect. Every cause has an effect. Every effect has a cause, right? So that is how the term sadhana and sadhya are used in philosophical world. Sadhana signifies a cause and sadhya signifies an effect. So bhava is an effect of sadhana, right? Bhava is effect. It is said right in the second verse here. Kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava. Sadhana vida. That sadhana, the sadhana leads to bhav. So bhav is a sadhya. He is using the word sadhya actually here. Sadhya bhava. Sadhya bhava means that bhav is a sadhya. So seeing this, Jiva Goswami says, look, bhav is a sadhya of sadhana and prema is also sadhya. Prema is not sadhana. Prema is sadhya, bhav is sadhya. So he said, just make two, sadhana and sadhya. Simple. Right? So, and also at the level of bhava, although you are still in the sadhak deha, but you are not a sadhaka in the ordinary sense of the word. Because you still have the same body, what else can you say? But you see in this material world also many times you say he is a Siddha Baba. Right? Siddha Krishna Das and Siddha Ram Das and Siddha so and so. So they are not called sadhakas anymore. Although theoretically they are still sadhakas. They are still in the sadhaka deha. So sadhya is used in the sense of sadhana's effect. So usually, if you follow other processes, there is a sadhana level and there is a sadhya level. But here in bhakti, there is in-between level, which is really neither sadhana nor sadhya. So what to call it? So if you are used to only two categories, then either you have to put bhava on the sadhana side or you have to put it on the sadhya side. So Jiva Goswami says that it is more appropriate to put it in the sadhya category. Because once you attain bhava, you are really not doing sadhana because now it becomes natural to you. So in that sense it is a sadhya, part of sadhya, not sadhana. But Vishwanath Chakravarti doing is little nitpicking. So he says, no. If you do little minute study, it cannot be sadhya, it cannot be sadhana. So he says it should be its own category. That's the basically two different views of the same thing. Okay, any other question? Yes. Can give to here.
You were mentioning at the stage of wow, it's very rare that somebody can come down.
Yeah.
Are there any examples like that in the Bible or in the time of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu like that?
I don't remember any examples.
Bharat Maharaj in Bhagavatam?
I mean, sometimes they give example of Bharat or King, who was that, Chitraketu. But actually Chitraketu was also really at the level of prema, because he had direct darshan of Sankarshan, which usually happens at the level of prema. So if you want to give example, you can give those examples. But then so many explanations are given that it happened really by the will of the Lord, it was not really an aparadha and so on. But there, I don't know any specific example. So now he explains what is sadhana bhakti. So if you remember Nyaya, little bit of Nyaya. So Nyaya deals with three things: Uddeshya, Lakshana and Pariksha. Right? So number one, it lists things. Uddeshya means just listing Uddesh. And Lakshana means giving definition. And then Pariksha means testing the definition. That's what Nyaya is. So basically he is doing the same thing. First he lists, he just gives three names: Sadhana Bhakti, Bhava Bhakti, Prema Bhakti. Then he will give the definition. And then he will explain what it is more in detail. So this is a system. If you see the books written down, even if you see Chaitanya Charitamrita, first he gives like a summary, just a list of the chapters. Then he elaborates. So first of the three things, sadhana, bhava and prema, sadhana bhakti is defined here. So kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sa sadhana bhida nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam hridi sadhyata. It is important that you memorize this verse, because this, just like in the previous chapter, the definition of Uttama Bhakti, it is good to memorize that, Anyabhilashita Sunyam. In this chapter at least memorize this, because this verse has been the cause of misunderstanding. A lot of misunderstanding on this verse. So commit it to your memory. And the commentary on this very important. So which one? Number 2.
1.2.2.
We are on the second. So first he defines what is sadhana bhakti. So if you see the verse, those of your book, he says sa sadhana abhida. Abhida means name. Abhida means name. That is called sadhana, or that has the name of sadhana bhakti. Which one? Sadhya bhava, whose effect is bhava. Sadhya bhava sa sadhana abhida. So what is sadhana bhakti? Sadhana bhakti is that which results in bhav bhakti. That is one thing. And what it is actually, okay, it results in that, but what is it? Only by seeing the result you will know that this was sadhana. But when you are at the sadhana stage, how do I know? So it says kriti sadhya. Simply one word, it says kriti sadhya. So that which is the outcome of your movements of your senses. Kriti is a technical word, especially in Indian philosophies. It is used. Kriti and chesta. So kriti, chesta, this refers to the like an internal movement or will to act. Whenever we perform some action, there is a will behind it. And when you do it, then there is a chesta, which means some change happens within body and then it manifests externally, visibly. So kriti includes internal, external both. So kriti sadhya. So sadhana is that which is basically done through kriti. That means there is some movement in your psyche, in your physical body, because you can perform mansik sadhana, you can perform vachika, upansu, and kaika, physical. So in mansika you may not see anything external, but still there is some action inside. So it is called indriya vyapara, or action of the senses. So then one will say, well, senses are all external. So mana or antakaran is also considered as sense, right? Internal sense. So sadhana is that which is performed with the senses. Internal, external. So kriti sadhya bhavet sadhya bhava sa sadhana vida. If you remember in the previous verse, Jiva Goswami says that sadhya was harda rupa, that it was in the form of just your heart. Even when you are not doing anything, it is there, prema, because then it goes inside you. It is not just manifesting at the level of senses only, but it is even beyond that. Means your heart itself changes completely. So even if you don't do anything, still bhakti is there. So in case of sadhana bhakti, you have to do it. That's why the word kriti is used. The word karma comes from the same root as kriti, action. So kriti sadhya. And sadhya bhava. And then what is the outcome of that? It will lead to bhava. And then bhava will be explained in bhav bhakti. What is actually bhava? So bhava is the internal potency. So then the internal potency comes, and that is actually bhakti. Really speaking, it is the internal potency which is bhakti. So that means at the level of sadhana bhakti, it has not become part of you yet. It manifests in the senses, but it has not become ingrained. Once it becomes ingrained, that is bhava bhakti, and then when it goes in completely into the Atma, then prema. So this takes some time. But at all level it is still Uttama Bhakti. Even at the sadhana level it is Uttama Bhakti, because this is also interesting, that it is Bhakti only which manifests itself. Really it is not product of the senses, because that's the question comes. That's why this word sadhana is very confusing. Those people who know Sanskrit or who have knowledge of other philosophies, they will misunderstand it. So we have to have this clear understanding that although the word sadhana is used here, but it is not used in the sense, ordinary sense. Sadhana bhakti is also Uttama Bhakti. Otherwise bhakti will become a product of material action. So even at the sadhana level, Uttama Bhakti becomes manifest. So he will explain this. So let's read the comment. The next part is very important. That's why he says Nitya Siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam hridi sadhyata. So now if sadhya is usually the product of sadhana. It's like if you have to go from here to Delhi, so you take a vehicle or you walk. So your effort or your vehicle which you are using, that is the sadhana, that is the means, and that is the goal. So you reach the goal with the help of sadhana. Or you take some ingredients and you make soup. So soup is the sadhya, ingredients is the sadhana. So when you are at the sadhana level, sadhya is not there. When you have the ingredients, soup is not there. Then you take the ingredients, put them together, boil, throw in some masala, right? Then you get the soup. So soup is a product of sadhana. So he says that bhakti is not sadhya like that. It is not that when you are at the sadhana level, then sadhya bhakti does not exist and you are going to create it by your effort. So then why is it called sadhya? He says sadhya here is only in the sense that it becomes manifest in you. That is the sadhya. So nitya siddhasya bhavasya. Nitya means, what is the meaning of the word nitya? Eternal. Nityananda. Eternally blissful. Right? So Atma is nitya. And bhava, nitya siddha. Siddha means existing. Sadhya is that which you create, and once you create it is called siddha, means it has come into existence. Right? That's why in Bengali, siddha also means cooking. When something is cooked, you say siddha ho gaya. Means it is cooked. So nitya siddha means ever existing. So nitya siddhasya bhavasya, that bhava which is ever existing becomes manifest, that is the sadhya. It is not that bhava is created. So nitya siddhasya bhavasya prakatyam hridi sadhyata. Its manifestation in the heart is called sadhya. So when it is said that sadhana leads to bhava, which is the sadhya, what is the sadhya of sadhana bhakti? Bhav bhakti. Right? The sadhya means the outcome or the effect of sadhana bhakti is bhav bhakti. That's why sadhana bhakti is called sadhya bhava. Sadhya bhava is another name for sadhana bhakti. Sadhya bhava means that which results in bhav. So what results in bhav is sadhana bhakti. So therefore sadhana bhakti is sadhya is bhav bhakti. Right? So now this sadhya here is not in the sense that the sadhana is creating it like you make the soup. But it is already there and it becomes manifest in the heart. So when you are doing sadhana, at that time also the sadhya is existing. But it becomes manifest. Now the question comes, where is it existing? That is the key point. So there are two major opinions on this. One is that it is existing in the heart already, and then it becomes manifest. Another is that it is not existing in the heart, but it comes from outside and becomes manifest. So the first one is the most popular understanding. Everybody thinks that everything is already inside you and it is a matter of just bringing it out. Just like if you start digging earth, the water will come out after some time, right? Because water is already there. It's just a matter of time and your effort. So go on digging, one day you will have water. Why? Because it is already there. That is the Nitya Siddha. By your digging you are not creating water, you are only discovering it. Discovering means something which already exists. So this is a very common understanding that bhava is already there inside you. You perform sadhana, then bhava will become manifest. Right? Shravanadi suddha chitta karaya udaya. That when you do Shravan, Manan, Kirtan, all this, heart becomes purified, then it becomes udaya. Then it comes out. So, Krishna Prema Nitya Siddha Sadhya Kabunaya. In Chaitanya Charitamrita it is said that Krishna Prema is Nitya Siddha, same Nitya Siddha se bhavas. Sadhya Kabuna, it is never sadhya. And Shravanadi Suddha Chitta Karaya Udaya. All you have to do is do sadhana bhakti, then it will come out. So this is the understanding, but this is not what he means here. What he means is that this Nitya Siddha Bhava exists only in Nitya Siddha devotees. Because Nitya Siddha Bhava is Antaranga Shakti. It is not a Bahiranga Shakti for sure, and it is not Tatastha Shakti. That's why Jiva Goswami makes very clear three divisions, that Krishna has three types of energies, right? Intrinsic potency, extrinsic and intermediary. So the Jivas, living beings, we know that are Tatastha Shakti, they are intermediary. And Antaranga Shakti is his world made of, which is sometimes called Chitta Shakti, Antaranga, intrinsic, internal. He is his own body, his own place, his own devotees, associates, they are all Antaranga. And then Bahiranga is this Jagat, material world. And in between is the Jiva, hanging neither this way nor that way, something like Bhava Bhakti. See, that's why in Sanskrit we have three cases, singular, dual and plural. Because there is always something in between also hanging. It's not just black and white, day and night. There is also twilight. So the idea is that bhakti is not here, because if it is already there, then it should act. So then they say that it becomes dormant. So what does it mean, becomes dormant? If it is potency, it is Shakti, what does it mean it is dormant? The very nature of Antaranga Shakti is that it moves towards Krishna. Just like very nature of Bahiranga Shakti is that it moves towards the material world. No matter how much you preach to somebody to engage in bhakti, still he likes material things. Why? Because bhakti is not there. Our mind naturally runs towards material objects. Why? Because mind is material. So birds of the same feather flock together. So how much you try your mind, it goes only to material activities, material thoughts, material objects, right? So if it is inside you, it should move towards Krishna. So similarly, Antaranga Shakti always moves towards Krishna. That's why once you have prema, then there is no offense, because that Shakti will move only towards Krishna, not Bahiranga. It doesn't move towards that. Then all your thoughts, all your actions, your feelings, everything will be Anukullena Krishnanusila. Because that Anukullena Krishnanusila, Bhakti Uttama, that is the Bhakti. That Bhakti is defined as that it is Anukullena Krishnanusila. The very definition of Bhakti is that it is naturally favorable to Krishna. So once you have it, that's what it will do. So if it is already there, why it is not working now? And why sadhana has to be done to activate it? No, it cannot become dormant. It is like saying that I love you, but I don't think about you. I love you, but I do everything for someone else. Why? Because my love is dormant. And then we have to practice, then my love will come out for you. So then what is the meaning that I love you? What is the meaning of love being dormant? Love cannot be dormant. Love is that which will wake you up, even if you are sleeping. It won't let you sleep. Right? People lose sleep in love. So what is the meaning that bhakti is dormant? It's like saying that love is dormant. So mother has love for the child, but she doesn't care because the love is very dormant. So we have to bring the child every day to the mother and show, and look, this is your baby, and we have to give lecture to the mother. You should do something because she is your child. And then gradually the love will come out. Does it happen like this? It doesn't happen like that. So therefore, it is not possible that there is. Moreover, we are very clear that Atma, the soul, the Jiva, is Tatastha Shakti. So if it is Tatastha Shakti, where is the Antaranga Shakti in Tatastha Shakti? The very idea of making these three divisions is that they are not mixed. Bahiranga is Bahiranga, Tatastha is Tatastha. Intermediary is intermediary. It's not that it becomes something else. And Antaranga is Antaranga. And you cannot bifurcate it. It's not that Antaranga you can cut one chunk from somewhere and then put it here, and then like a spark of the fire it loses its power. No. Antaranga is Antaranga. Wherever it is, even if it is small, it is always connected in the complete Antaranga. It is potent. That's why it is so powerful. That's why it is said that bhakti removes all the sins and everything. Why it is said like this? Because it is so powerful. That's why we speak about that even abhasha, semblance is powerful. What to speak of bhakti itself? Even bhakti abhas is powerful. Yes. You can give the mic backside.
You spoke of the Tatastha Shakti. So in that verse, Jivena Swarupa Krishna Nityadas. There's also an element of Ved and Aved.
Yes.
So there is some Ved as well as some Aved. So from the current understanding of what you gave about Tatastha Shakti Jivas, that there is no Antaranga Shakti in there.
Right.
So what is the Aved in the Tatastha Jivas?
So Abhed is that it is also one Shakti of Bhagavan, and Shaktiman are one. Just like you have different types of energies in you, right? You may have energy to write poetry, right? And you may have energy to run in a marathon. Now energy to run in a marathon is different type of energy, and energy to write poetry is a different type of energy. So those energies are having abheda from you. But the energies themselves are not abheda. You understand? So the energy by which you do marathon, that is also non-different from you, and the energy by which you write poetry, that is also non-different from you. But those two energies themselves are distinct. So Tatastha Shakti is also Shakti of Bhagavan, and Antaranga Shakti is also Shakti of Bhagavan. But Tatastha is not Antaranga. Just because they have abheda with Bhagavan does not mean that they have abheda with each other. Then it will become Brahmavad.
So there is only the eternality feature of it. there is only the eternality feature of it, not the bliss in the Satchidananda aspect.
Yeah, it is conscious also, that feature is there. Jiva is eternal and conscious. God is also conscious, Krishna is also conscious. And it has ananda in the sense that in its swarupa it is not miserable. That is ananda. You see, these words have some subjective meaning. Just like when you say something is red, red is not just one type of red. There are hundreds of varieties of red, right? So similarly, when it is said that Jiva is Satchidananda and Krishna is Satchidananda, now don't think that is the same Ananda. We tend to think that Ananda is only one variety, but there is so much variety in the Ananda itself. So there is Ananda of Jiva Swarupa, that is Swarupananda. There is Ananda of Brahman realization, that is Brahmananda. And then there is Ananda of Bhagavad Swarupananda. And then Bhagavad Shakti Swarupananda, Shakti-ananda. So there is so much variety. And then in that again further variety. In Dasya Bhav there is one Ananda. In Sakhya there is one Ananda. Madhurya is another Ananda. In Madhurya also there is further variety. You go up to Mahabhav and in that also you have variety. Right? Madanakhya, Modanakhya. So these are all Anandas. But now you cannot say that Radharani is also having Ananda and Jiva is also having Satchidananda, they are same. Right? In mathematics you can do that. Because Ananda is equal to Ananda. But it is not true. Okay? Yes.
I was under the understanding that there was no actually Shastric quote explaining that bhakti is dormant in the heart of conditioned soul. I heard there's no Shastric quote. If there is, please tell me. And there is no...
You're asking me?
I'm asking if there's no Shastric quote for this conception, where has it come from and why is it...
Misinterpretation of this, misunderstanding of this statement. You see, you can misunderstand statement because this verse is not clearly saying that from where this Nitya Siddha Bhav is. The verse only says that the manifestation of Nitya Siddha Bhava, eternally existing Bhava, in the heart is called perfection or appearance of Bhava Bhakti. Now it does not say from where it is appearing. So there are two possibilities. One is that it is already there inside and then it becomes manifest like a seed becoming a plant. Another is that it is coming from somewhere else and it becomes manifest. So that misunderstanding can happen the way you interpret it. Okay? So now it appears very appealing that it is already there. Because this is very common understanding. If you go to the spiritual societies, New Ages, you heard of the New Age groups? New Agey. You know about the New Age followers, New Age gurus? So they will all tell you this, that everything is inside you. This is very common. You can go on Google, you just Google it. Everybody will speak like this. In India there are many New Age type of gurus, they all speak like this. So this is same Advaitavad is also saying that everything is in you, you are Brahman. So same, this idea is very appealing. Why bhakti is so rare? Because in bhakti you have to give up your ego. You have to surrender. Giving up means you have to surrender the idea that you are not the boss, it is Krishna who is boss. But the most appealing idea is if somebody says you are Krishna yourself. Right? That is appealing. Krishna means you are Paramatma, you are Brahman, you are Bhagavan, whatever is their school. But you yourself are that. That is the most appealing and this is the most prevalent idea in spiritual circles. So now to go against it is like swimming against the current. You will not have many people with you. and everybody will think you are crazy, and nobody will listen to you because it's not appealing. Now what we are trying to say is that you are actually nobody. You are basically a little tiny soul which has nothing in it, worthless, and wandering here in this material world under the influence of Maya. And now you please surrender to Krishna. Mameviya prapadyante maya metam tarantite. You come to surrender to me, then you can cross over my Maya. So this is very difficult to accept for the material ego. Material ego does not like this idea at all. Even those people who come to bhakti, they also don't like it unconsciously. Because for millions, trillions, billions of years, we have been revolting against this idea of surrender. Surrendering is the poison pill which nobody wants to take, and this is the pill which you need to take to become a devotee. And the whole upbringing at present, especially in the West, is against surrender. Your whole personality is brought up and designed not to surrender. If you surrender, then you are a sissy, you are a weak guy, you have no backbone, and you are worthless, and you will not be successful in the material world. So you write your CV, you have to flaunt your ego as much as possible. Of course, you should not be caught, but you have to show off how great you are. If you want a job, you cannot say, I'm useless, I'm fallen, please. Then the guy will say, get out. Right? If you want to even get an admission in a school, you cannot say, I'm very useless student, I don't have good brain, and my memory is very little. They will not give you admission. So you have to speak big, anywhere, among the friend circle, at the job. Even if you want to get a girlfriend, you cannot be just a humble guy. So you have to show off. So now if this has been your personality from your very childhood, and then you come to bhakti and you say surrender, then you say, I don't understand. You don't even understand the meaning of this word. I'm telling you, people don't understand, just like people don't understand the meaning of the word love. They don't understand. They have some vague idea, wrong idea, misconceived idea what love is, and they're flowing with that. Similarly, they have a wrong idea what is surrender. If you actually know what is surrender, you will stand up and walk out. It is good fortune that you don't know, so you are sitting. This is the truth I'm telling. So therefore, even Krishna, you see how careful he was. This was 5,000 years ago when surrender was taught from the very beginning. In Vedic culture, surrender is taught from the very beginning. Right? You have to respect your mother, you have to respect your father, respect the teacher, respect the guest, respect your elder brother, respect everybody who is senior to you. That's why Arjuna was saying, how can I shoot arrow at my grandfather? Now if there was somebody else, he will kill him without asking. Yeah, he says, what grandfather? These people have taken our kingdom. What kind of grandfather is he? Hell with him. He will not say anything like this which Arjuna is saying. So this is because of the training that you have to respect. Even to him, Krishna did not immediately say, surrender to me. He goes building up, then at the 18th chapter he says, now I tell you the secret. Listen, my friend. Maybe he was still scared. Krishna was still scared to say it. So he is so like slowly he's saying. Even after saying that, I'm going to now tell you the topmost secret, and right? Sarva guhyatam bhuya shrunme param vacha. You are my friend, you are my this. He's like trying to pat him first. And then he's going to cut his head. That's what he's doing. He's patting him nicely. Then he's going to chop off his head. And even then he did not say immediately. First he said, Man mana bhav mad bhakta madhyajimam mamev sati satyam pratijani priyosimi. He says, you are my dear. I guarantee this to you. You will come to me. And then he says, Sardarban paritajya mamekam saranam braja. Then he says, now you should just surrender to me, please. So you see how difficult it is to give this idea of surrender. So that's why it is very easy to misinterpret it. Because your mind will not think like this, that you have to get something from somewhere. It is very easy for the mind to think that I am the boss, I have everything in me. It's just that I made some stupid mistake, I forgot about it. So then they'll tell you, just like you have your glasses, they're actually on your eyes, but you think you don't have, and you're searching them everywhere. Then you say, oh, the glasses are here. And you say, wow. So this is the Nitya Siddha Bhava. The glass was already there. It did not come from anywhere. It's just that you forgot that they're there. So this idea is very prevalent. This is how Advaitavadis speak, that everything is there. Then Chaitanya Charitamrita also, the nice story, Mahaprabhu also gave little help to understand. Right? That he said that there is this wealth hidden in the house, and you dig this side, you dig that side, right? So just dig it. The wealth is already there. So then said, look, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is also saying this, what you are talking about. So is this clear? Yes.
The verse from Chaitanya Charitamrita Nityasiddha?
Yes.
Would you sometime explain that? It should say basically the same.
No, it's the same thing here as Nitya Siddha means that which is not created, self-existing. Eternally existing is called Nitya Siddha. It's like Krishna is Nitya Siddha. Although he takes birth from Devaki, but he was already there. So that is called Nitya Siddha. Nitya Siddha means which is not a product. Usually the word sadhya can also be translated as a product. Sadhya means product and sadhana is ingredient. So when it is said it is a Nitya Siddha means it is not a product of something. It is not created. It is not produced. It is eternal, eternally existing. So what we have to do is we have to get it. So that's why it is said, Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata Bij. So now what is the meaning? If it is already there, then what is this Bhakti Lata Bij? If it is already dormant in the heart, then what is this Bhakti Lata Bij? Brahmanda Brahmite Kaun Bhagyavan Jeev Guru Krishna Prasade Paye Bhakti Lata Bij. So what is that Bhakti Lata Bij? That Bhakti Lata Bij is this Nitya Siddha Bhava. So that comes by the grace. Can give the mic, please? Yeah.
You are saying this Sadhya Bhav exists in eternal persons in the spiritual world. Somebody could turn the argument, which we hear sometimes, that because we came from the conditioned souls, they fell down from Golok Dham or Krishna Loka. So it's there.
So why if it was already there, why is that you fell down? And what is the point in doing anything with it? Because it has no protection. It did not protect you.
So that argument really disproves that you don't really...
No, yeah. Because if you already have this Nitya Siddha Bhava and you fell down, then it is useless to go there. We better go to heaven. At least you will have some fun. Because you don't fall down from heaven just like that. Your period is fixed. If you go to Vaikuntha, you can fall down next day. It's more uncertain. So there is no effect of Maya there. Maya na adhikar. Maya does not have adhikar there. Maya's jurisdiction is only here, not in the spiritual world. So where is the question of fall down? We are reading here that when you have prema, then your Sada Krishna Asrit Kriya, he said that all your Kriya, all your activities are Krishna Asrita. Right? This is what we read in the previous commentary just now. So if all your Kriya is Krishna Asrita, how you will fall down? Right? Avigyata khila klesha sada Krishna Asrita Kriya siddhasyur. Rupa Goswami says this, that when you attain prema, then all your kriya, all your activities are Krishna Asrita. All. And sada. Always. So how you fall? Where is the possibility? So think about it, and we'll continue tomorrow. We'll read the commentary. It's very important because this is a very global misconception. And majority of Gaudiya Vaishnavas believe in this idea of dormant love. Those who don't believe is a minority.